The biting winter wind whipped Clara's thin coat around her, but the cold barely registered. Her focus was entirely on the two bundles clutched tight against her chest. Leo and Maya, her precious twins. Their soft, innocent breaths were the only warmth she felt as she stood on the desolate steps of the Evergreen Adoption Agency. The gray, imposing building loomed before her, a silent witness to the most agonizing decision of her life. Tears, already a constant companion, streamed down her face, blurring the sterile edges of the agency sign. "My sweet babies," she whispered, her voice a raw, broken sound. "Mama loves you more than anything in this world." Each word was a fresh cut. Her husband, gone too soon, leaving behind a mountain of medical debt, then the eviction, the cold nights in the car. She had fought, clawed, begged, but the world had only taken more. This was the last, most unbearable sacrifice. "I can't give you what you deserve," she choked out, pressing a kiss to each tiny head. "But they can. They will keep you safe." The thought ripped through her, a desperate plea for resignation. She felt a phantom tug, an unavoidable force pulling her forward. A gentle voice broke through her despair. "Clara, please, come in from the cold." Mrs. Richards, the agency director, stood framed in the doorway, her expression a practiced blend of professional calm and genuine sympathy. The reception area, though formally decorated, offered a much-needed respite from the biting air. Clara followed, her movements stiff, her mind a fog of grief. Mrs. Richards led her to a comfortable seating area, her voice soft and reassuring. "The Wilsons are truly wonderful people, Clara. They've wanted children for years. Leo and Maya would have a loving home, a stable future. Everything you'd want for them." Clara nodded, unable to speak, her gaze fixed on her babies. The words were meant to be a comfort, a balm, but they only underscored her failure. A better life, yes, but not with her. In a sterile conference room, the quiet felt suffocating. Mrs. Richards had left her alone, a final, torturous moment. Clara cradled Leo in one arm, Maya in the other, her thumbs tracing the delicate lines of their faces. She tried to memorize every curve, every eyelash, every tiny finger. This was it, the last time she would hold them like this. "You deserve warmth, my little stars," she whispered, her voice thick with tears. "You deserve full bellies and soft beds and a mommy who isn't always afraid." Her heart physically ached, a sharp, tearing pain. How could she do this? How could a mother willingly give up her children? But how could she not, when keeping them meant continued hardship, a life she wouldn't wish on anyone? "It's not goodbye, my loves," she lied, the words tasting like ash. "It's for your future." A heavy knock on the door startled her, making her flinch. Time was up. Mrs. Richards re-entered. A subtle shift in her demeanor. Her smile was gone, replaced by a slight urgency. "Clara, I apologize for the interruption, but there's been an unexpected development." Clara's heart sank further. What now? Had the Wilsons changed their minds? Was even this impossible option being taken from her? "The agency's primary benefactor is here. He heard about your case, and he wishes to speak with you." Clara blinked, confused. Her mind was still reeling from the goodbye she'd just uttered. "The benefactor?" she managed, her voice hoarse. Mrs. Richards nodded, beckoning her to follow. Clara followed Mrs. Richards down a hushed corridor to a different office, one much larger and more opulent than anything she'd seen. It was a temporary space, clearly, but still radiated power. Behind a vast, polished desk sat a man who seemed to command the very air around him, Liam Sterling. His name echoed in her mind from a brief, hushed introduction from Mrs. Richards. He was impeccably dressed in a dark, tailored suit, his dark hair slicked back, his gaze sharp and intelligent. Clara felt a sudden, acute awareness of her own worn clothes, the faded fabric, the faint scent of stale coffee and desperation that clung to her. She shifted the twins, trying to appear composed, but her cheeks burned with embarrassment. He looked at her, then at the babies, a quiet intensity in his eyes that made her feel dissected. This man was a titan, a force of nature, and she was nothing. Just a broken woman on the brink. Just then, Leo let out a soft whimper, his tiny face scrunching. Instinct took over. Without thinking, Clara began to rock him gently, humming a low, familiar lullaby. Her hand moved to rub his back in practiced circles, and within moments, the whimper subsided into a sleepy sigh. Liam Sterling's gaze, which had been fixed on her, softened almost imperceptibly as he watched her. "You're a natural, Clara," he observed, his voice deep and surprisingly gentle, a stark contrast to his imposing presence. Clara felt a bitter laugh catch in her throat. "Unnatural at what, Mr. Sterling?" she retorted, her voice sharper than she intended. "Unnatural at loving them? Yes. Unnatural at providing for them? At keeping them warm and fed and safe? Clearly I'm not." The raw honesty hung in the air, a truth she couldn't escape. Liam's expression remained unreadable, but his eyes held a new, intense focus. Clara's heart still hammered from the raw emotion of her goodbye, but Liam Sterling's voice, calm and measured, cut through her daze. "Clara Evans," he began, his gaze unwavering. "Your husband's medical bills, the eviction notice from last month, the insurmountable debt. I know about it all." Clara's breath hitched. How could this man, this titan of industry, know such intimate, crushing details of her life? He continued, leaning forward slightly. "And I know, Mrs. Evans, that you don't want to give up your children. Not truly." A wave of shock, then a cold dread, washed over her. He hadn't just done his homework, he'd seen into the very core of her desperation. Her composure, already fragile, threatened to shatter completely. Liam paused, a shadow passing over his usually impassive face. "My sister, Catherine," he began, his voice dropping. "She was a single mother, brilliant but stubborn. Too proud, perhaps. She tried to do everything herself, refused help, ran herself into the ground." Clara watched him, a strange empathy blooming in her chest. For the first time, she saw past the CEO and glimpsed a man haunted by grief. "She died, Clara. Stress, exhaustion, leaving behind a daughter, my niece, Chloe. I should have intervened sooner, been more present. I saw her struggling, but I didn't truly understand until it was too late." His confession hung heavy in the air, a raw, unexpected vulnerability that connected their disparate worlds. He straightened, the softness in his eyes replaced by a renewed determination. "So," Liam stated, his voice ringing with a sudden, startling clarity, "I'll take them." The words, so blunt and unexpected, ripped through the quiet office like a thunderclap. Clara gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief, clutching the twins tighter. Mrs. Richards, who had been listening in hushed silence, clapped a hand over her mouth, her eyes as wide as Clara's. The room fell into a stunned silence, Liam's words echoing, hanging in the air like an impossible, terrifying promise. Liam held up a hand, a small, reassuring gesture. "Not like that, Mrs. Evans. Not for adoption." Clara, still reeling, watched him, her mind struggling to catch up. "I'm offering you a rent-free apartment for 1 year, fully furnished. And a job at Montgomery Enterprises utilizing your business degree. Full benefits, of course, including our on-site childcare program for Leo and Maya." He looked directly at her, his gaze intense. "It's a way for you to keep your children, Clara, to give them the life they deserve, with you by their side." Relief, so sudden and profound it almost buckled her knees, warred with a deep-seated suspicion. This couldn't be real. "What's the catch?" Clara asked, her voice barely a whisper, her eyes narrowed with a lifetime of hard lessons. Her pride, her fierce independence, screamed at her to refuse charity. Liam's lips quirked into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "The catch, Clara, is your willingness to accept it. To accept a second chance." He leaned back, observing her internal battle. She looked at Leo and Maya, sleeping peacefully in her arms, then at the man offering an impossible lifeline. The image of the agency steps, of her whispered goodbyes, flashed in her mind. This was her chance, a chance to protect them, to keep them. Tears welled in her eyes, hot and fast. She swallowed, a lump in her throat, and nodded, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. I accept." She choked out, a fragile hope blooming in the barren landscape of her despair. 3 months later, the sterile walls of the adoption agency were a distant, terrifying memory. Clara sat at her neat desk in Montgomery Enterprises, the hum of the bustling office, a stark contrast to the silence of her past. She'd been promoted, her business degree proving invaluable. Her spacious, beautiful apartment, just a short walk from the office, still felt like a dream she might wake from. Leo and Maya were thriving in the company's state-of-the-art daycare, their happy gurgles, a constant melody in her heart. She often found herself pinching her arm, just to be sure. This new life, this second chance, felt almost too good to be true. A quiet satisfaction settled in her, a sense of having earned this peace, even if the initial push had been a gift. Then, the intercom on her desk buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. "Clara, could you come to my office?" Liam's voice. The soft, almost imperceptible buzz of the intercom startled Clara, pulling her from the spreadsheet she'd been meticulously updating. "Ms. Evans, Mr. Sterling would like to see you in his office," Megan's crisp voice announced. Clara's breath caught for a fraction of a second. Even after 3 months, the summons to the CEO's inner sanctum still carried a certain weight. She smoothed her skirt, a quiet ritual to compose herself. She knew Liam preferred she call him by his first name, but old habits and a deep-seated respect for professional boundaries died hard. She still addressed him as Mr. Sterling, a formality she felt necessary to maintain the distance between them. She walked the short distance to his office, her steps even and composed, a stark contrast to the churning curiosity in her stomach. When she entered, he wasn't at his imposing desk. Instead, he stood by the vast window, hands clasped behind his back, gazing out at the glittering cityscape, a silent, contemplative silhouette against the endless sky. "Clara?" Liam said, turning from the window, his voice calm, but with an underlying current she couldn't quite place. "Please, have a seat." He gestured to one of the plush leather chairs opposite his desk. His gaze, usually so intense, softened as he continued. "How are Leo and Maya settling into the daycare? Still enjoying it?" Clara felt a familiar warmth spread through her at his concern. "They're thriving, Mr. Sterling. Absolutely thriving. The staff there are wonderful." He nodded, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. "Good. I'm glad." He then leaned forward, his expression shifting to one of keen focus. "I have a new project for you. We're hosting our annual charity gala next month, and I'd like you to coordinate it. I've been impressed with your organizational skills, and I believe you're more than capable of handling something of this scale." Clara's eyes widened slightly. This was a significant step up from her usual administrative tasks, a real test of her abilities. Clara's mind immediately began racing through logistics, a thrill of challenge sparking within her. "Of course, Mr. Sterling. I'd be honored." She paused. "I assume this will involve some evening work, but I can arrange childcare." Liam held up a hand, a faint smile playing on his lips. "I'm glad to hear it. However," he paused, his gaze sweeping over her. "This is a black tie event. I'm going to have Megan take you shopping. Company expense, of course. Consider it a necessary part of the role." Clara felt a flush creep up her neck. Her mind immediately conjured images of her worn, practical wardrobe. "Oh, that's not necessary, Mr. Sterling. I'm sure I can find something suitable." She hated accepting gifts, especially something so personal. It felt too close to charity, undermining the professional competence she fought so hard to project. But Liam's look was firm. "It is. No arguments. I want you to look and feel your best, Clara. You're representing Montgomery Enterprises." His tone left no room for debate. Clara, swallowing her pride, simply nodded. "Thank you." The words felt stiff, yet her chest ached with an unfamiliar gratitude mixed with a lingering discomfort. That evening, the scent of lavender baby wash filled Clara's apartment as she bathed Leo and Maya. Their delighted splashes and gurgles were a balm to her soul, a constant reminder of everything she had fought for. She watched them, their tiny hands reaching for the plastic ducks, and a familiar ache settled in her chest. How close she had come to losing this, to giving up these precious moments. The memory of the adoption agency's steps, the cold wind biting at her, still sent a shiver down her spine. Now, here she was, in a spacious, warm apartment, planning a charity gala. It felt like a dream she was constantly afraid of waking from. Later, curled on her sofa, she scrolled through images of elegant gowns on her laptop. The ethereal silks and glittering sequins, a world away from her reality just months ago. The thought of wearing such a dress, paid for by Liam, still pricked at her pride. But then she glanced at her sleeping children, and the lingering trauma of desperation eclipsed the fleeting embarrassment. For them, she would do anything, even accept a gift. A soft knock at the door, hesitant yet firm, startled Clara. Her heart gave a little jump. It was almost 9 o'clock. Who could it be? Cautiously, she peered through the peephole and froze. Liam Sterling stood on her doorstep, dressed not in his usual impeccable suit, but in a casual polo shirt and dark jeans. He looked different, younger, more approachable. But still, what was he doing here? She opened the door, a mix of surprise and self-consciousness washing over her. She was in her oldest sweatpants and a faded t-shirt. "Mr. Sterling?" she managed, her voice a little breathy. He offered a sheepish, almost boyish smile. "Clara, please, Liam." He cleared his throat. "I realized I forgot to give you a few key details about the gala, and I was in the building just checking on some maintenance issues. Thought I'd swing by." His explanation felt flimsy, almost comically so. Clara raised an eyebrow, a small, knowing smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Maintenance issues at 9 p.m. on her floor?" "Of course," she said, her voice laced with a gentle skepticism. "Won't you come in?" Liam stepped inside, his presence filling the small entryway. His eyes, sharp and observant, scanned her living room, taking in the scattered baby toys, the colorful playmat, a half-empty sippy cup on the coffee table. It was a lived-in, slightly messy space, a world away from the sterile perfection of his office. Clara felt a sudden, acute awareness of her home's humble charm, and then, inexplicably, a strange intimacy settled between them. She gestured to the sofa. "Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water?" He shook his head, his gaze still sweeping the room. "No, thank you. This is nice. You've made it quite a home." Clara felt a blush rise to her cheeks. "It is," she admitted, her voice softer than usual. "I'm still so incredibly grateful, Liam, for all of this. For giving us this chance." The words, heartfelt and raw, hung in the air. Liam's gaze met hers, a flicker of something unreadable in his depths, a slight discomfort at her effusive thanks. He didn't like to be thanked, she realized. He preferred action, not words. He cleared his throat, shifting slightly. "So, the twins, how are they sleeping these days?" He finally settled on the edge of the armchair, carefully avoiding a brightly colored stacking toy. Clara laughed, a genuine, unburdened sound. "Sleeping. What's that?" she joked, rubbing her eyes playfully. "They usually give me a good stretch, but there's always one who decides 3 a.m. is prime time for a party." A strange, wistful expression crossed Liam's face, a shadow passing over his usually composed features. "My sister, Catherine, she used to say the same thing. Single mother, always exhausted. I never truly understood, not until well." He trailed off, his gaze distant. Clara's heart ached with a sudden, profound empathy. She saw the lingering pain in his eyes, the regret she now recognized from their first meeting. Without thinking, she spoke. "Would you like to see them? They're both asleep in the nursery, but Leo sometimes fusses a little before he truly settles." Liam's eyes snapped back to hers, a flicker of surprise, then something akin to longing. I wouldn't want to disturb them." "It's fine," Clara insisted softly, already rising. "Come on." Clara led him to the nursery, the air hushed and warm, bathed in the soft glow of a nightlight. Maya was a tiny, peaceful bundle in her crib. Leo, however, stirred slightly as they approached, his eyes fluttering open. Clara gently scooped him up, a natural grace to her movements. "Hey, little man," she whispered, rocking him gently. She turned to Liam. Would you like to hold him?" Liam hesitated, his large hand seeming almost clumsy as he reached for the tiny infant. But as Leo settled into his arms, a profound tenderness softened Liam's entire demeanor. Leo, surprisingly alert, reached a tiny hand up, his fingers closing around Liam's tie clip. A small silver airplane. Liam's gaze fixed on it, a faraway look in his eyes. "My father gave me this," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "He always said, money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy time, or happiness." Clara watched him, her heart aching for the quiet pain she sensed within him, the burden of a past regret. Liam gently adjusted Leo, a soft, almost paternal smile on his lips. "He's quite something." Clara stepped closer, her voice soft. "Your sister, Catherine, she would be so proud of you, Liam, for everything you're doing." His smile faltered, a brief flash of pain crossing his face. "I should have done more. Should have seen it sooner." He handed Leo back to Clara, his movements suddenly regaining their earlier composure, the CEO's shield snapping back into place. "Well," he said, clearing his throat, "I should go. I've taken up enough of your evening." He moved towards the door, the ease of their shared moment dissolving. Clara, however, couldn't let him leave without saying it. "Liam," she called, stopping him. He turned. "Thank you, truly, for everything. For this job, for this apartment, for letting me keep my children. You gave us a second chance." He looked at her, his eyes unreadable for a moment, then a small, cryptic smile touched his lips. "Second chances, Clara," he said, his voice low. "Even for me." And with that, he was gone, leaving Clara with the lingering sense of mystery and a warmth that spread through her chest. The Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom glittered like a fallen galaxy, a symphony of crystal chandeliers, polished marble, and 1,000 hushed conversations. Clara, stunning in a midnight blue gown that shimmered with every movement, felt utterly out of place. The dress, chosen by Megan with an expert eye, fit her perfectly, the rich fabric flowing elegantly. But beneath the facade of sophistication, Clara felt like an imposter, a Cinderella on the verge of the clock striking midnight. "You look absolutely breathtaking, Clara," Megan whispered, catching her eye across the bustling room. "See? I told you, you belong here." Clara managed a weak smile. "I still feel like I should be serving the canapés, not attending the gala." Megan laughed, shaking her head. "Nonsense. Look around. Look at everything you've accomplished. This is your world now, or, at least, a part of it." Clara took a deep breath, trying to absorb Megan's confidence. She smoothed the fabric of her dress, the silk feeling alien against her skin, a constant reminder of how far she'd come, and how precarious it still felt. Taking a deep breath, Clara pushed aside her self-consciousness and focused on her duties. This was work. Her work. She moved through the opulent ballroom with purpose, her eyes scanning for any potential issues. The floral arrangements were perfect, the lighting just so, the catering staff efficiently circulating. She checked the seating charts, confirmed the sound system, and discreetly spoke with the event manager. A quiet satisfaction settled within her. This event, this grand, glittering affair, was running flawlessly, and a significant part of that was her doing. She felt a surge of professional pride, a quiet confidence blooming in her chest. She wasn't just an assistant, she was a capable, valuable asset. She belonged here, not as a charity case, but as a professional. The feeling was exhilarating, a tangible proof of her worth. "Clara, there you are!" Liam's voice, smooth and confident, cut through the din. He looked impossibly handsome in his tuxedo, a commanding presence even amidst the city's elite. He gestured to an older couple standing nearby, their faces kind and distinguished. "I'd like you to meet William and Margaret Parker. They're invaluable benefactors to several of our initiatives." He turned to them, a proud gleam in his eyes. "And this is Clara Evans, my executive assistant. She's the brilliant mind who coordinated this entire event tonight." William Parker offered a warm smile. "A pleasure, Ms. Evans. It's truly a magnificent affair." Margaret Parker nodded. "Indeed. Liam has told us a little about your remarkable journey." Clara felt a jolt. Finally, remarkable journey. The words, though seemingly complimentary, made her stiffen. It was a euphemism, she knew, for her desperation, her homelessness, her near sacrifice. She managed a polite, tight smile. "Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it." She met Liam's gaze, a subtle question in her eyes, a flicker of discomfort that she hoped he wouldn't miss. The Grand Meridian ballroom glittered, a stark contrast to the churning unease in Clara's stomach. She had just been introduced to William and Margaret Parker, philanthropists whose generosity was as legendary as their warmth. William, a man with kind eyes framed by laugh lines, beamed at her. "Clara, my dear, Liam has told us so much about your incredible journey. And you're twins! Margaret and I believe every child deserves the best start. We'd be honored to offer Leo and Maya a full scholarship to the Parker Montessori program." Clara's heart seized. A scholarship? It was an unimaginable gift, a weight lifted she hadn't even realized was pressing. Gratitude surged, hot and overwhelming to her eyes. "Mr. Parker, Mrs. Parker, I don't know what to say. Thank you. That's incredibly generous." Her voice was thick with emotion, but beneath the heartfelt words, a sharp, cold realization began to prickle. Liam told them. He had spoken of her personal struggles, her children, her past, to these strangers. The warmth of the offer was quickly overshadowed by a growing resentment. Her dignity, so carefully rebuilt, felt suddenly exposed. A commodity traded without her consent. She managed a strained smile, accepting their effusive congratulations, but her gaze was already seeking out Liam. She found him near a quiet alcove, sipping champagne, his profile sharp against the ballroom's golden light. Clara marched towards him, her elegant gown feeling like a costume, her composure barely holding. "Liam," she began, her voice low but laced with steel, "we need to talk. Now." He turned, a polite, almost proud smile on his face. "Clara, everything is going wonderfully, isn't it? The Parkers were quite impressed with you." "Impressed with me," she echoed, a bitter laugh escaping. "Or impressed with the story you told them?" "My story. My children's story." Her eyes, usually warm, were now narrowed, blazing with a fury he hadn't seen. "How dare you, Liam? How dare you use my private life, my children's circumstances, to solicit donations? Am I just a marketing tool for you? A sob story to tug at the heartstrings of your wealthy donors?" Liam's smile faltered, replaced by surprise, then a flicker of defensiveness. "Clara, I was trying to help. They're good people. They wanted to contribute to a worthy cause, and your situation resonated with them. It was a chance for your children to have opportunities you couldn't provide." "That's not your decision to make," she shot back, her voice barely a whisper, but potent with outrage. "My dignity is not for sale, Liam. I'm not some charity case you trot out. I've worked tirelessly to rebuild my life, to regain my autonomy, and you just laid it all bare without a thought for how that might make me feel." She felt a searing betrayal, the fragile trust she'd started to build crumbling. "You had no right." The air between them crackled with the unspoken accusations, the chasm of their misunderstanding suddenly vast. Their argument was cut short by Mrs. Richards, announcing dinner. Clara forced a professional smile, her jaw tight, and took her seat at the head table beside Liam. The opulent meal, the clinking of cutlery, the polite chatter around them, all felt distant, muffled by the roar of her anger. She picked at her food, a knot of resentment tightening in her chest. Was this how he saw her? A project, a testament to his guilt over his sister, a way to assuage his conscience. The thought was a poison, undermining her sense of worth, making her question every kind gesture, every helpful word he'd offered. She had fought so hard to stand on her own 2 feet, to shed the label of struggling single mother, only to have it plastered across her, a badge of pity. She risked a glance at Liam, who seemed outwardly calm, but she could sense a subtle tension in his shoulders. He didn't meet her gaze, and she wondered if he even understood the depth of her hurt. Later, as the speeches began, Clara watched Liam rise to the podium, the very speech she had helped him prepare resting on the stand. A fresh wave of indignation washed over her. He would wax poetic about corporate responsibility and charitable giving, while she sat here, feeling like a carefully curated exhibit. But then Liam cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping the room, and began to speak. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we celebrate the power of giving, the spirit of community. But tonight, I also want to speak about something more personal, something I've kept hidden for far too long." A hush fell over the ballroom. Clara frowned, a ripple of confusion replacing her anger. This wasn't the speech. "Many of you know I lost my sister Catherine years ago. Liam continued, his voice unexpectedly raw. What you might not know is the full truth of her story. Catherine was a single mother, brilliant and fiercely independent. And I judged her. I saw her struggles, her exhaustion, and I offered money, not understanding, not truly offering the emotional support she needed. His voice cracked, and a single tear traced a path down his cheek, catching the spotlight. I was proud. Too proud to admit my own sister, my own flesh and blood, was drowning. And because of my pride, my judgment, my inability to see past my own preconceived notions of what help looked like, I lost her. She died of stress, of exhaustion, of feeling utterly alone. He paused, his gaze, for a fleeting moment, finding Clara in the crowd. We talk about second chances for others, but sometimes the greatest second chance is the one we give ourselves. The chance to heal, to learn from our mistakes, to be better, to choose empathy over judgment. I failed my sister. I won't fail again, not if I can help it. The ballroom remained hushed for a beat, a collective intake of breath before erupting into thunderous applause. Clara, however, sat motionless, tears streaming down her face. The words Liam had just spoken reverberated through her, recontextualizing everything. His cryptic comments about second chances, even for me, his unwavering determination to help her, despite her initial resistance. It wasn't about guilt, not entirely. It was about redemption. About understanding a pain so profound, so similar to her own, that it had compelled him to act. Her anger, so fierce just moments ago, melted away, replaced by a profound, aching empathy. He wasn't using her. He was seeing her, truly seeing her, through the lens of his own tragic past. The weight of his vulnerability was immense, and in that moment, she saw not the imposing CEO, but a man haunted by grief, desperate to make amends. After the gala had begun to wind down, Clara found Liam alone on the terrace, gazing out at the city lights. The cool night air offered a stark contrast to the emotional heat of the ballroom. She approached him cautiously, her heart still heavy with the weight of his confession. "Liam," she began, her voice soft, I am so sorry. For what I said earlier. For misjudging you." She swallowed, her own pride a bitter taste in her mouth. My own pride got in the way. I was so focused on my autonomy, on not being a charity case, that I couldn't see past my own hurt. I didn't understand. Liam turned, his eyes still holding a lingering sadness but also a quiet understanding. "You had every right to be angry, Clara. I should have asked you. I should have known better than to assume. My intentions might have been good, but my execution was flawed. Sometimes," he continued, his gaze drifting back to the city, "vulnerability can be a powerful tool for good. It opens hearts, it builds bridges, but it has to be shared willingly, or it becomes a violation." He looked at her then, a faint, weary smile touching his lips. "Thank you for understanding." The air between them, once thick with tension, now hummed with a fragile new intimacy. Clara nodded, a sense of profound relief washing over her. The chasm had closed. "Your sister? She sounds like she was an incredible woman," Clara offered, genuinely. "And Chloe, your niece, how is she doing?" Liam's expression softened further, a wistful quality entering his eyes. "She's good. Still living with my parents, of course. My mother says she's doing well in school." He sighed, a deep, quiet sound. "I wish I could be more present. More than just the fun uncle who swoops in on weekends with gifts. I see her, and I see Catherine, and I feel like I'm still just a bystander." Clara reached out, her hand hovering for a moment before gently touching his arm. "It's never too late to be more, Liam," she said, her voice a soft, steady balm. "You've proven that tonight. To everyone. To yourself." She squeezed his arm gently, offering a quiet, powerful encouragement that transcended their professional roles. He looked at her, a flicker of something unreadable in his gaze. Just as Liam seemed on the verge of responding, perhaps even sharing more, a bright, efficient voice cut through the quiet. "Liam? Clara? There's a slight issue with the late-night catering for the staff. Clara, could you take a look?" Megan Johnson, ever the capable assistant, appeared in the doorway, oblivious to the intimate moment she had just shattered. Clara offered Liam a small, apologetic smile before turning to Megan. "Of course, Megan. I'll be right there." As she walked away, Liam called out after her, "Clara!" She paused, turning back. He looked at her, a strange longing in his eyes, his lips parting as if to say something profound, something personal, but then he seemed to catch himself, his expression smoothing back into polite professionalism. "Thank you," he said, the words slightly clipped, "for all your excellent work tonight." The unspoken words hung heavy in the air between them as Clara nodded and followed Megan, leaving Liam alone on the terrace once more. The following Monday, Clara found a substantial bonus check on her desk, along with a handwritten note from Liam. It was brief, simply stating, "Clara, for your exceptional work on the gala and for your understanding, Liam." A small, private smile touched her lips. Over the next few weeks, their professional relationship subtly shifted. Liam still maintained his CEO gravitas, but he would frequently stop by Clara's desk, ostensibly to discuss a project, but often veering into questions about how Leo and Maya were doing, or sharing a brief, wry observation about the challenges of managing a vast enterprise. Their conversations became easier, laced with a comfortable camaraderie that bordered on friendship. Clara found herself looking forward to these moments, appreciating his genuine interest, the glimpses of the man beneath the executive. Her twins, photos on her desk, often became a focal point, a silent bridge between their worlds. One late evening, as Clara was tidying her desk, preparing to pick up the twins, Liam appeared at her office door. He looked uncharacteristically flustered, his usually impeccable hair slightly disheveled, his tie loosened. "Clara, I need your help. It's Chloe." His voice was laced with an edge of panic. "My parents, her grandparents, they had a sudden family emergency out of state. They had to leave tonight, and I have Chloe. For the whole weekend." He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know what to do. What do 8-year-old girls like? Do they like museums? Or do they just want ice cream? I'm completely out of my depth." Clara couldn't help a small, amused smile, despite the urgency in his tone. This powerful CEO, reduced to a panicking guardian. Museums can be good, depending on the museum. Ice cream is almost always a hit, she offered, her tone calm and practical. Does she like art? Science? What about animals? She felt a surprising warmth that he would come to her, trusting her with such a personal, vulnerable request. Clara quickly rattled off a few more suggestions, her mind already buzzing with possibilities. There's the new interactive science exhibit downtown, or the botanical gardens have that amazing butterfly conservatory right now. Kids usually love that. Liam's eyes lit up, then he hesitated, a slight flush rising on his cheeks. The botanical gardens, that sounds perfect. Actually, Clara, would you and the twins, would you consider joining us this weekend? Just as friends, of course, for Chloe. She might enjoy having other children around, and frankly, I could use the moral support. He looked genuinely hopeful, a touch of vulnerability in his gaze. Clara paused. Her first instinct was to politely decline, to maintain their professional distance, but the image of Liam panicking over a little girl, and the thought of Chloe's solemn face, made her reconsider. It felt right. A small tentative step into a new kind of interaction. "We'd love to, Liam," she said, a warmth spreading through her. "The botanical gardens it is." Saturday morning dawned bright and fresh. Clara dressed Leo and Maya in their cutest matching outfits, a flutter of anticipation in her stomach. This wasn't a business meeting, or a gala. This was different. When Liam's sleek black car pulled up, he stepped out looking remarkably different. Gone was the impeccably tailored suit, replaced by dark jeans, a casual polo shirt, and a pair of stylish sneakers. He looked younger, more approachable, his usual gravitas softened by a hint of nervousness. In the back seat sat a slender, serious-looking girl with dark hair and wide, observant eyes. "Clara, this is Chloe," Liam introduced, placing a reassuring hand on his niece's shoulder. Chloe offered a shy, almost imperceptible wave. "Hi," she murmured, her voice soft. "Hi, Chloe," Clara replied, her voice warm, offering a gentle smile. "These are Leo and Maya." The twins, already strapped into their stroller, gurgled happily, completely oblivious to the solemn first impression being made. Chloe's gaze lingered on the babies for a moment, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. As they set off for the botanical gardens, the unusual group, the powerful CEO, the resilient single mother, the quiet 8-year-old, and the babbling infants, already felt like a burgeoning family, albeit one still finding its footing. The botanical gardens unfurled around them like a living tapestry, vibrant and serene. Clara found herself walking a few paces behind Liam, pushing the double stroller, while Chloe walked beside her uncle, a quiet observer of the exotic flora. It was an unusual group, she mused, the formidable CEO, the single mother, the solemn 8-year-old, and the babbling twins. Yet, Liam seemed surprisingly at ease, his earlier corporate crispness replaced by a relaxed posture in casual jeans and a light jacket. He pointed out a particularly striking orchid to Chloe, his voice softer than Clara usually heard it, and a flicker of interest, almost imperceptible, crossed Chloe's face. Clara felt a quiet contentment settle over her. This nascent family dynamic, though unexpected, felt strangely harmonious. Inside the humid warmth of the butterfly exhibit, hundreds of iridescent wings fluttered around them. Maya, usually so reserved, let out a delighted squeal as a large blue morpho landed gently on her tiny hand, its delicate antennae tickling her skin. The sound was infectious. Across from them, Chloe, who had been watching the butterflies with her usual quiet intensity, let out a soft, genuine giggle. It was a sound Clara hadn't heard from her before, a pure, unburdened burst of joy. Liam turned, a surprised smile on his face. Chloe's eyes, usually so serious, were bright. She looked at Clara, then at the stroller, and shyly asked, "Can I push them for a bit?" It was a small request, but for Clara it felt monumental, a tentative step into connection. As they walked further, Chloe, now proudly pushing the stroller with a newfound spring in her step, chattered quietly to the twins. Clara glanced at Liam, who watched his niece with a soft, almost wistful expression. "Thank you for coming today, Clara," he said, his voice low. "Chloe seems happier, more open." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It makes me regret not being more present for her earlier, not being more than just an uncle." Clara's heart ached for the unspoken pain in his voice. "It's never too late, Liam," she said gently, meeting his gaze. "Never too late to be more." A spark of hope flickered in his eyes, and a comfortable silence settled between them, charged with mutual understanding. They entered a tunnel of flowering vines, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and the soft buzz of bees. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, casting shifting patterns on the path. Liam walked beside her, his arm brushing hers occasionally as they navigated a narrow turn. Clara became acutely aware of his presence, the warmth of his skin, the subtle scent of his cologne, the easy rumble of his laughter as Maya blew a raspberry at a passing butterfly. A dangerous thought bloomed in her mind, unbidden. What if this wasn't just friendship? What if they were a real family, walking hand in hand, without the invisible boundaries of employer and employee? She quickly pushed the thought away, a blush rising to her cheeks. She couldn't risk the stability she had fought so hard for, the sanctuary he had provided. This was a professional relationship, a friendship. Nothing more. It had to be. 2 weeks later, the fragile piece of the gardens felt a lifetime away. Liam was on an emergency trip to London, dealing with a sudden corporate crisis. Clara was at her desk at Montgomery Enterprises when the phone rang, an unfamiliar number. "Oak Ridge Elementary," a voice announced. "We have a Chloe Sterling here with a fever, and you're listed as her emergency contact." Clara's heart lurched. Emergency contact? She hadn't known. But there was no time for questions. "I'm on my way," she said, her voice firm despite the sudden rush of alarm. Grabbing her bag, she informed Megan, who offered to cover her calls. Clara rushed out, a knot of concern tightening in her stomach. Chloe, pale and listless, was waiting with Principal Matthews. Clara immediately scooped the girl into a comforting hug, the warmth of Chloe's feverish skin confirming the urgency. Back at her apartment, Clara settled Chloe on the sofa, a soft blanket tucked around her. Chloe's eyes, usually so solemn, were wide with fear, shimmering with unshed tears. "Uncle Liam, he left so fast," she whispered, her voice raspy. "Is he in trouble? Like Mom? Clara's heart clenched. The child's fear of abandonment, so raw and palpable, was a direct echo of her past trauma. She pulled Chloe closer, choosing her words carefully. "No, sweetie. He's not in trouble. He just had to go away for work, very quickly. He'll be back soon, I promise." She stroked Chloe's hair, offering the only thing she could, unwavering presence and stability. "You're safe here, Chloe. Liam will be back." Clara left a voicemail for Liam, brief and reassuring. Just as she hung up, the daycare van pulled up. Leo and Maya burst through the door, full of the boundless energy only toddlers possess. To Clara's surprise, the bustling energy seemed to work like medicine. Chloe, who had been drowsing fitfully, perked up. Her fever seemed to have broken, and a faint color returned to her cheeks. She watched the twins, a soft smile playing on her lips, then quietly began to interact with them, showing remarkable patience as Leo tried to pull her hair. "My mom always said I'd be a good big sister," Chloe murmured, almost to herself as Maya tried to share a slobbery toy. Clara watched the scene unfold, a wave of warmth washing over her. The text arrived around 11, just as Clara was tucking the twins into bed. "Landing now. Be there soon. Liam." Her heart fluttered with a mix of relief and something else, something she couldn't quite name. It was past midnight when a quiet knock came at her door. Liam stood there, looking utterly exhausted, his suit rumpled, his eyes heavy-lidded but filled with profound concern. "Chloe?" he asked, his voice strained, before Clara could even speak. "How is she?" Clara led him to the guest room where Chloe was sleeping soundly, a faint smile on her face. Liam stood over the bed, his shoulders slumping with relief, a hand gently brushing his niece's forehead. The quiet intimacy of the moment felt intensely personal. Back in the living room, Liam sank onto the sofa, running a hand over his face. "Thank you, Clara, truly, for everything." Clara sat opposite him, a question still lingering. "Liam," she began, "why was I listed as Chloe's emergency contact? Not her grandparents?" He met her gaze, his expression vulnerable. "It was presumptuous, I know, but with my parents away, and Catherine, you're the only person I trust implicitly with her. I knew you'd handle it." His words, so raw and honest, landed with immense weight. He then briefly explained his London crisis, a complex merger threatening to unravel, highlighting the immense pressure he was under. Yet, in that moment, his focus was entirely on Chloe, and on Clara's unwavering presence. Liam paused, collecting his thoughts. This whole week, being away from Chloe, knowing she was sick and I couldn't be there, it made me realize something important. He looked at Clara, his eyes resolute. "I'm going to petition for full custody of Chloe. I want her to live with me, permanently." Clara gasped, a wave of profound joy washing over her. He had found his purpose. "I know I failed Catherine," he continued, his voice thick with emotion, "but I won't fail Chloe. I want to be a fully present family member. I want to learn from my mistakes." Clara could only nod, tears welling in her eyes. It was a beautiful, courageous decision, a testament to his growth and his love for his niece. "There's something else I need to tell you," Liam said, his voice softer, almost hesitant. Clara waited, her heart pounding with a strange mix of anticipation and trepidation. "My being at the adoption agency that day, it wasn't a coincidence." Clara's eyes widened. "Mrs. Richards called me. She knew about Catherine, about my regret. When she described your situation, a single mother, overwhelmed by debt, about to make the ultimate sacrifice. She said it was like looking at Catherine's ghost." Clara stared, stunned. "I went there to help." "Yes," Liam admitted, "to prevent another tragedy. But what started as an act of duty, it evolved, Clara, into something much deeper than I ever anticipated." The revelation hung in the air, connecting past and present with an undeniable thread of destiny. Liam took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering, searching Clara's face. "What started as me trying to help Clara became something else entirely. I found myself looking forward to seeing you, thinking about you and Leo and Maya, even when I was supposed to be focused on work." His voice dropped, a vulnerable whisper. "I started wondering what it would be like if we weren't just colleagues, if there wasn't this line between us." Clara's breath hitched. Her heart hammered against her ribs, the dangerous thought. now echoing in Liam's own confession. He reached across the small distance between them, his hand hovering near hers. I know this is inappropriate given our professional dynamic, he said, his eyes filled with a longing that mirrored her own. But I can't ignore it anymore. I've developed feelings for you, Clara. Strong ones. The air in the room crackled with unspoken emotion, a tension so thick it felt almost unbearable. Just as Liam's voice had dropped to a tender whisper, poised on the edge of a world-changing confession, a small, sleepy figure materialized in the hallway doorway. Chloe, her dark hair, a tousled mess from sleep, rubbed her eyes with a tiny fist. "Uncle Jack?" she mumbled, her voice soft and uncertain in the quiet apartment. The unspoken words hanging between Clara and Liam shattered like delicate glass. Liam's gaze, which had been fixed on Clara with such intensity, immediately softened and swiveled to his niece. The romantic tension, thick just moments before, evaporated, replaced by the innocent reality of a child's needs. Clara offered a small, knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement that some things were simply more important. Liam instantly rose, crossing the short distance to Chloe and scooping her into his arms. He held her close, stroking her hair. The CEO, the business titan, was gone, replaced by a man filled with tenderness and a touch of nervousness. Clara watched, a warmth spreading through her chest. This was the man beneath the polished exterior, the one who truly cared. Liam settled back onto the sofa. Chloe nestled against him. "Hey, sweet pea," he murmured, his voice gentle. "I want to talk to you about something important. How would you feel about coming to live with me permanently? As your guardian?" Chloe's small face, still a little pale from her fever, looked up at him, her eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and dawning hope. Chloe was quiet for a long moment, her brow furrowed in thought. Clara held her breath, watching the profound exchange. Then, Chloe's voice, small but clear, broke the silence. "You mean, you'd be my dad?" Liam's breath hitched, a silent nod his only answer. Chloe's face broke into a tentative, then radiant, smile. "Yes," she exclaimed, throwing her arms around his neck. "And Mom always said you needed someone to take care of you." A fresh wave of emotion washed over Liam, his eyes welling up as he hugged her tighter. Clara felt a tear roll down her own cheek, a joyful, profound warmth enveloping her. "Your mom was very wise, Chloe," Clara whispered, her voice thick with emotion, acknowledging the beautiful, full-circle moment. 6 months later, the spacious, elegant penthouse that was Liam Sterling's home now vibrated with a different kind of energy. Clara watched from the living room, a soft smile gracing her lips, as Chloe, her solemnity replaced by a bright, open cheerfulness, chased Leo and Maya across the plush rug. The twins, now sturdy toddlers, giggled and stumbled, their infectious joy filling the air. So much had changed. Liam had not only petitioned for Chloe's custody, but he'd also reorganized his demanding schedule, making time for school pickups and evening stories. Clara, too, had thrived. Her talent at Montgomery Enterprises had been recognized with a significant promotion, her business degree finally put to full use. Their relationship, once a cautious friendship, had deepened into something far more intimate, a quiet understanding that hummed beneath every shared glance. Later that evening, the city lights twinkled below them as Clara and Liam stood on the penthouse balcony, a gentle breeze rustling their hair. "The papers came through today," Liam said, his voice soft, almost reverent. "Chloe's custody is finalized." Clara turned to him, her heart swelling. "How does it feel?" she asked, already knowing the answer. Liam gazed out at the sprawling cityscape. "Terrifying," he admitted, a quiet laugh escaping him. "And exhilarating, like I've finally found my true purpose." Clara nodded, a profound sense of recognition washing over her. She thought back to that cold winter morning, walking out of the adoption agency with her babies, the terror and the exhilarating, fragile hope. "I know exactly what you mean," she whispered, their eyes meeting in a shared moment of deep, unspoken understanding. The domestic bliss of the penthouse was occasionally pierced by the realities of Liam's world. He brought it up casually, almost as an afterthought, as they watched the children play. "There's a minor skirmish brewing with Sterling Corp," he said, naming a rival company. "They've been making aggressive moves, trying to poach some of our key talent." Clara listened, her mind already analyzing the implications. Liam's gaze sharpened, a hint of a question in his eyes. "I heard they even made you an offer, Clara. A very generous one." Clara met his gaze, her expression firm. "It was an offer, yes," she confirmed. "But it wasn't even a consideration. My loyalty is here, Liam, to Montgomery and to what we're building." The unspoken, family, hung in the air, a silent testament to her commitment. Liam's serious expression softened into a grateful smile. Clara felt a quiet strength bloom within her as she looked at Liam. Her initial pride, that fierce independence born of hardship, felt 1,000,000 miles away. She remembered how desperately she'd clung to the idea of doing it all herself, of never accepting help, of being beholden to no one. But Liam had shown her a different path. He hadn't just helped her. He'd empowered her, respected her, and in doing so, taught her the true meaning of partnership. It wasn't about weakness to lean on another, but about finding a deeper, more profound strength in shared vulnerability, in interdependence. This life, this family, this future, it was a conscious choice, an active leaning in. And for the first time, she wasn't just surviving. She was truly, deeply thriving, hand in hand with someone who saw her, truly saw her. Liam reached across the sofa, his hand finding hers, his thumb gently stroking her knuckles. "That means more to me than you know, Clara," he said, his voice deep and sincere. "Your loyalty, your competence, your unwavering belief in what we're trying to achieve, both professionally and personally. You're indispensable, truly." He squeezed her hand. "Whatever challenges come our way, we face them together. I want you to know that. You are seen, you are valued, and you are not alone." Clara's heart swelled, her eyes shining. His words were a balm, a powerful affirmation that resonated deep within her soul. With him, she felt an unshakable security, a sense of belonging she hadn't realized she craved so fiercely. The city lights glittered like scattered diamonds below them, painting a romantic backdrop as Liam turned fully to Clara. "Speaking of the future," he began, his voice taking on a slightly nervous yet determined edge. "Your apartment lease is coming up for renewal soon, isn't it?" Clara nodded, a flicker of confusion mixed with anticipation in her eyes. Liam took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. "There's another option, Clara. For you, for Leo, for Maya. This penthouse has 5 bedrooms. More than enough space for all of us. I love you, Clara. More than I ever thought possible. And I want to build a life with you. A full, blended family. Will you and the twins move in with me? Will you be my partner in everything?" His eyes pleaded with her, a vulnerability in their depths that stole her breath. Clara's eyes welled with tears, her heart overflowing with a joyous, overwhelming emotion. "Yes," she breathed, the word a soft, heartfelt affirmation. "Oh, Liam, yes. I love you, too." Without another moment's hesitation, she leaned in, her hands cupping his face. Their lips met. A kiss that was both a gentle ending to their individual struggles and a passionate, exhilarating beginning to their shared future. It tasted of promises made and dreams realized, of quiet strength and profound love. It was a kiss that sealed not just a romance, but a family, a future, a new beginning built on resilience, empathy, and the beautiful, unexpected gift of second chances. Later, curled up together on the balcony, watching the city sleep, Clara rested her head on Liam's shoulder. "Do you believe in fate?" she murmured, her voice soft. Liam chuckled, pulling her closer. "I believe in second chances, Clara," he replied, his voice a low rumble. "And I believe in being brave enough to take them, even when they look nothing like you expected." He raised his glass, filled with sparkling water. "To building something new," he said, his eyes shining. Clara clinked her glass against his, a radiant smile on her face. "To our new beginning." She echoed, her heart full, looking forward to every unpredictable, beautiful moment of their unexpected, blended family. A few weeks later, the penthouse was no longer just elegant. It was truly a home. Toys were scattered in a cheerful riot across the living room rug, and the scent of freshly baked cookies mingled with the quiet hum of happy children. Clara and Liam watched, their hands intertwined, as Chloe patiently helped Maya stack brightly colored blocks, while Leo, a mischievous grin on his face, attempted to help by knocking them down. Laughter, bright and uninhibited, filled the spacious room. It was a scene of domestic bliss, a stark, beautiful contrast to the desperation Clara had known just months before. Liam squeezed her hand, and Clara met his gaze, a silent promise of their beautiful, unexpected future together, a future built on love, resilience, and the power of a family reborn.